everybody! Welcome to the Lord of the Rings Adventure Card Game live stream. I am Sarah, the community manager. Today is December 17th, 2020. Welcome, everybody. Today is going to be kind of a different thing because as we all know, or may or may not know, wait, I gotta mute something. Okay. Today's the last stream for the year. So, it was kind of requested that we sort of do something kind of chill, kind of relaxing, maybe a little less crazy. I'm adjusting volume in my ear here. Hopefully it's not too loud for you all here. I have the SoundCloud on in the background. I don't even have the game open right now. Because we're just gonna chat. We're gonna hang out. I have something planned. Like, we're not just gonna like, so. I'm gonna change it to the tune called Stream. Hey, Dad Mageddon. Welcome to the stream. Hi, Octavian. Hi, Pablo. I am doing well, thank you. It is cold. I am freezing. I have turned my heat up twice today, but it's okay. It's like winter in Wisconsin. It's what happens. It's like every year we're shocked. We're shocked by two things when winter comes around. The snow. Almost 36 years on this planet, and every time I'm like, I'm not ready for the snow. But then the other thing that always shocks us is how early it gets dark. Like, how many times a year do you guys hear like, man, it's getting dark pretty early today? Like, every year, and we're just always so amazingly shocked. Hey, Engage, how are you? Anyway, so what I thought I'd do today is, like, I had a couple ideas that I was kicking around. Like, I went back actually to my first stream and I found the deck and I was like, maybe I'll do like a reprisal of the very first deck I streamed and blah, 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 and do the same quest, but make it harder. And I was like, meh, we've all seen Addercop like 16 million times, especially from me. So what I thought, am I muted? Oh, that was your end. Okay. Hi, Aaron. Don't do that to me. So what I thought I'd do today is like talk about some of the things that I've gathered, some of my favorite things. I dug in, unfortunately not public archives, but I dug in archives for some art to kind of showcase stuff. And what I think, we all know the art's really great in this game, right? Like, it's top notch. But with the way current things are, sometimes you kind of, some of the magic of the images gets lost because of size, because of framing, all of that kind of stuff. So I was figuring I'd kind of talk about some of my favorite things, and we can have a discussion around that, and I can showcase some art and, you know, just sort of hang out. I have no idea if this is how long this will take. I just kind of threw some stuff together. So we're winging it. But hey, it's what I do. So I put together kind of a presentation of sorts, but it's just more or less just a smattering of images that I'm going to go through. So, I hope this is interesting. At the very least, you guys get to see some bigger art of the cards that you know and love, or the cards that I know and love and hate. I actually added some interesting things. So I'll just get started. Let me just make sure everything looks okay. So first card that I picked was Cram. Now, here's some things I love about Cram. One, first of all, 2 health. Who doesn't love that? And then it readies the character. So it's like a leadership Lembas, if you will. But there's reasons why I like this better. Now, obviously, you can't always bring it because you don't always have 2 leadership sphere heroes. But hope this includes some of Twit's memes. It doesn't include memes, and I probably should have. But But this is probably one of my favorite pieces of art. So that's why it made my top 10 list. Because, first of all, I mean, the actual abilities of the cards are great. But, like, there's, like, he's holding what I assume to be Lembas in his hand with his, like, grubby, chubby little, and he is nomming on that like nobody's business. And that look of pure bliss of like, this card art is so wonderful. Like, every time I played it, there was always a part of my brain that was like, oh, it's Cram. So, and you know what's interesting is, like, if I had 2 Sphere Leadership, of course I brought this, but I didn't always bring Lembas, which is essentially the same card. I believe it's the same cost, two resources on both of them. It's just, this is like, how can you not get happy about a dwarf stuffing his face and being happy about it? Like, I just love me this card so much. So, it made my bottom just because I don't often get to bring it, because I don't often play 2 Sphere Leadership, but, I feel like this is also really great because you get some of the, nice buckling and the stitching and the things you kind of miss from the card art itself. So, high-res image for you of what Cram actually looks like. Cram is a biscuit-like food made of men of Lake Town. Interesting. So Cram is the food, not the Lembas. Or, see, I just thought it was the act of cramming food, and which I've been there. So Cram is the actual food. That is interesting. Cram is a noun, not a verb, folks. Now we know. Thanks, Dad Mageddon, for that little fun fact. Little tidbit. My next card that I put in here, and some of you may be thinking, one elven, one dwarven. They won't eat each other's food. That's actually fair. I didn't even think about that. And see, you guys are all teaching me something. This is why I wanted to do this, so we could have conversations. So let's go back real quick. So, dwarven version of the food is Cram. Elven is Lembas. That's so great. It's a little fact. Okay. So, okay, Round Shield. Why did I include Round Shield? Because let's be honest, it is a 1 resource card and black. Black is huge. Black can do multiples of things. It can, so when your ally or hero have block, and some of this is like, for you veterans, duh, Sarah, we know. But maybe there's people that aren't necessarily watching, that haven't played a ton. So, like, when you have block, automatically it sinks 1 damage. Cool. So if something hits you for 2, you only get 1. But what it also does is it typically prevents, not always, but typically prevents enemies with 1 attack from even going after you. So if you have something with block and you are guarding with it, they're just not going to attack, and Sauron's going to end his turn, so you save yourself. So block is hugely awesome. It is a 1 resource card. And then, all that aside, can we just appreciate the beauty of this beautiful card? So, in the actual game itself, obviously you can still see the patterning on the shield and all of that kind of stuff, but look how much richer it is when you get the full res. You get all of those specular highlights, the shininess here, and the details and like how grubby that shield really is. So this dwarf's seen some stuff. He's been there. He's been around. And yeah, it's just like you've got a little bit of sort of the Celtic scrolling, and it is just, your eye just kind of moves all around the shield. It's so great. And to have it front and center and the perspective on the knee, it's just, I could go on forever, obviously. So that's also why I picked this. Like, if I have tactics, I'm almost always bringing Round Shield. But then also doesn't hurt that this art is beautiful. And you know what I should have done, and I didn't, and I'm a jerk, and I should know better because I'm an artist. I didn't give the artists credit. So, sorry, guys. I should have known better. But in any case, Round Shield. Oh, and you know, like if you look really closely here too, there's like buckling in the... It's really cool. It's really cool. A dwarf theme from Sarah. It's heartwarming since the elves get too much fashion attention. You know, it's kind of true. Like, the dwarves are sort of the stodgy underdogs, right? It wasn't intentionally a dwarf theme, but I guess maybe my heart goes out to sort of the little guys. Pun intended. You're welcome for that. But yeah, and the dwarven art's always really good. Like, I'm a sucker for textures. I'm a sucker for like breaking up, you know, kind of smooth surfaces so your eye has something to look at, but then also appreciating some of the smooth surfaces so your eye gets a break. Like, that's kind of yeah, something's really well textured. I'm all in. I'm all in. So like, you get the beards on the dwarfs, you get their ruddy skin. It's just a kind of it's a thing. It's a thing. So, Round Shield. It's a great card, and the art's also fantastic. Next, unsurprisingly, Raiment of War. And again, like, I didn't spread this out like allies versus attachments versus events. I just kind of picked things that if I have tactics and I'm building a deck to do well, or, you know, just play and try to beat the thing, these are the cards I'm probably going to put in it. Raiment of War. It is expensive. It is a 4 resource card, which is a little tough to swallow, so you can never play it outright. But +1 to attack, +2, and the block. So it's like a rich man's round shield. Right, Aaron? Right? This is fantastic. So I was especially excited to pull in this high-res image of this art because there are so many delicious, arty, yummy bits on here that I think get lost in the smaller image of the card. Like, look at this chainmail. Look, like how fun is it to kind of go from this like really warm colored gold as it goes down into shadow into sort of the more cooler gold, if you will, just to kind of show that roundness. Yeah, and Rohan, because of but like, even that, like, look at all the detail that you kind of, I mean, you can kind of see it and all, but another thing that really, I just love it. So they do this a lot in movies, in Hollywood, in TV, and all of that kind of stuff, is the blue and the orange lighting. It's a very, very common thing. Watch for it next time you watch any sort of media, because everybody does it. So when you're trying to highlight something, it's usually in a warm color, and when you're trying to recess something, it's in a blue color, because that kind of pulls that depth. So like, that's exactly what the artist did here. They kind of put the sort of front of it in shadow, but still highlighted it with this blue light, and then the back of it in this sort of orangish warm glow. It's so good. It is such genius work. And then you've got these really great shiny speck hits to kind of bring your eye all around the image. Like, it's just and then just the way everything converges, right? You've got your sword here and your arm here all pointing towards the helmet, so it kind of just brings your eye to, I'm not always being articulate about these things, but obviously I get really excited about stuff like this. Engage, when I can slap that baby on a ranged hero, Sauron is usually on the verge of lava tears. I would agree with that. Like, ranged with plus fight and block. Ranged, fight, and block. It's like the tactics dream. And yes, Aaron, like, I mean, let's give credit where credit's due. These card frames are really nice. They're really well done. But being sort of the art person that I am, I want to see more of it because it's all so well done in this game. And a lot of games that I've played recently, specifically, I mean, I know this is bringing in other media, but Seven Wonders is a board game that I've played quite a bit, and they just redesigned everything, and it's exactly what they did. They sort of debulked the card frames and everything to give us a clearer picture of the art that's on there. And it's just, who doesn't like looking at pretty things? Come on now. Also, it just occurred to me as I'm staring at this, like this kind of looks like a vein in the arm, like the armor, the little beveling or whatever that's called. And let's talk about sort of the repetition here. You got the horse on the top of the helmet, which is like right next to the horse in the armor. It's just so great. And the texture of the beard. I can't say enough great things about this card. This is probably one of my favorite arts, aside from Cram, obviously. Yeah, and it most certainly, and I got you, Aaron. I got you. Not that these are bad. It's just, yeah, we want to see more. If you can make the art bigger. Because like I said, I mean, look at the difference between the two. This is gorgeous as it is because you have all of these light and darks and really good contrasts in it that is engaging and interesting for your eye. But then you get over here and you're like, oh, wow, there's a lot more detail in here. Even, let me point out this little bit of green here. Like it's a reflection of maybe he's reflecting some grass or some foliage, so like getting that green color in here too for a little more visual interest. It's good stuff. It is good stuff. I could stare at this image all day and I could probably talk about it for a while. I digress. It is 18 minutes in the stream and I've gone through what, 3 cards? Anyway, so next on my list of must-haves, Gandalf, right? Like, I think it even came up on the stream on Thursday, right? Where I was like struggling to fill my deck because of my, I think it was, LotR and single card restriction that I had. And I believe it was Twit was like, or maybe it was you, Engage, actually. Just was like, just throw Gandalf in there. And I mean, he's wonderful. He's especially wonderful if you can get Narya on him, because then he sticks around. But even still, like, upon arrival, 3 cards, or 3 damage, or 3 threat. I would say, largely, I would use him for the threat, especially if I didn't have Spirit with me, which is, like, notoriously the threat abolishers. But he was always that sort of nice, rounded thing. Like, I forget who said it. But basically, like, the neutral cards, which is what this is, obviously, kind of helped fill in the gaps of what you were missing if you didn't have a particular sphere. So, Gandalf was almost always thrown in there if I had the space. And it was more or less not like, okay, he's a must and I threw him in there first. It was like, what am I missing? Threat. Yep, let's put Gandalf in there. And if I wanted to put Narya, even better. And it's an interesting conversation, too, because he is a unique ally, which means only one copy of Gandalf can be had out there, as well as only one copy of Narya, which is also... So, for those that may not know, Narya is the attachment that removes fleeting, so he doesn't run away at the end of the round. And always arrives neither early nor late. Always on time. That's an interesting thought, Aaron. So you would personally make Gandalf a cost 2 or 3 and be able to pick 2 effects. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's like the bell curve of things. Like, most often I used him for threat, but sometimes it was damage. I would say probably less so than even drawing cards. But that's an interesting thought of making him cheaper. Now, I think what makes him so expensive is 4 fight, 4 willpower. Like, he's a very well-rounded guy. So if you don't make him expensive, it's almost too good. Oh, cost more. 2 or 3 more and be able to pick 2 effects. I misread that. I am sorry. I am the servant of the secret fire, says Octavian. All the little sound bites in this game are pretty great. Yes, you said cost more. So yeah, I think 5 is the highest cost of card right now. would be interesting to see if there's ever an opening up for higher cost cards and you get more out of them. I mean, but that make it more prohibitively, because like Gandalf's sometimes hard to really play because you're at least using at minimum 2 rounds to save up for him, which means you're not playing anything else unless you have resource gathering, and which is typically a leadership thing. So in any case, going to the art, like you can see a good portion of this in the card art, but like you miss out on this really pretty stitching that's here. Like, oh, that, like my eye immediately goes to this stitching area, and it's so well done. And then what I also liked is that, especially in this close-up, you can see some of the coloring, some of the, like, it seems really random and strange, but it works, right? So you've pulled in some of these yellows and greens from the background into the foreground to sort of harmonize everything. It's so good. And like his eyebrows, dude's got some brows. Look at those things. Like you can pet them like little, like, I don't know. Just, you could like brush them back into his hair and tie it up. They're great. They're really good eyebrows. And not to mention there's stitching up on the top of the hat that you kind of miss. And yeah, the pipe shadow, you're right. Even like that color's still mimicked from background to foreground. So it's just, I'm also, in addition to like texturing of surfaces, just the painterly quality of these, I love that. I have this whole theory about photorealism and how it's an incredible skill to have. It just, you're an expert at light and shadows when you can paint in photorealism. But then there's the other part of me that's like, yeah, but why? Because cameras exist. So I tend to gravitate towards these really beautiful, like where you can see the brush strokes, but each stroke makes sense and it's well placed. Like from the small area, you can see the little highlight underneath his eye, and it makes sense. And you get close here and you're like, oh, that's just like a dab of paint, but it works. It absolutely works. So, yeah. Anyway, so Gandalf, I think a lot of, I guess going back to what I was talking about, being a unique ally, you can only have 1 copy, which also means when you're playing multiplayer, if your partner has Gandalf, well, yours is toast. You can't bring it out until that one goes away. So it's interesting. Usually for me, for cards that were unique, I tended to veer on only 1 copy unless it was like Bjorn or something, who usually died fairly quickly. I usually only ended up putting 1 copy in there. So like I would put maybe two Gandalfs, 1 Narya, like, or 1 and 1. I just because if one's out, the other copy is useless. But then there goes to be the argument that if you have 2 copies, you have a better chance of getting it. So argument can be made for both sides. I just usually veered on only 1 copy of the thing. And engage photorealism just doesn't tickle the imagination as much. You much rather admire the fine attention to detail. I agree. Like I said, I mean, having a photorealistic talent is just that. It is talent. It takes an exceptional attention to detail to be photorealistic, and it impresses me. It's not anything I'm going to hang on my wall, because there's things that exist like this where, yeah, you get that sort of brain playground with those paint dabs and the texturing of it. I think it's more interesting. Like I said, if you want photorealism, then just take a photo. That is my personal opinion at that. Go back to Shadow. Could be great if you add some kind of library where we can see the amazing art on the game page too. I know. Unfortunately, we don't have currently a public repository. The best we can do is Hall of Bjorn, which I believe is linked on the Discord. Obligatory join the Discord because that's where all the cool kids are. I don't know if there's ever a plan to put these. I mean, it's a lot of data to stick around. So for now, you just get to be at my mercy of what I choose to show. Okay. Next, I picked Ravenwinged Helm. So I know I had mostly attachments so far. So I had Round Shield, I had Raiment of War, Ravenwinged. What I like about Ravenwinged is twofold. One, obviously it's cheaper than Raiment, so some would say it might be a poor man's Raiment, but no. What I like about this is that you only gain block when attacked, which means it hides the block from those one point enemy pingers, right? So if you guard with somebody with Ravenwing, the 1-pointers are gonna come get you, and they're gonna die. And it's great, because with things like Round Shield and Raiment, the Sauron can see the block, so he doesn't tend to attack you. Whereas with Ravenwing, it's more on the sly. So I like to throw this in my arsenal as well. It's a great card, +2 attack. Any armor, in addition to a weapon that can give you +2 attack, is gold for me, for my personal play style. So I really like the sort of stealthiness of it. And again, I included this too because the art is wonderful with these large images, getting more of that little speckling detail in the highlights that makes sense from a distance. And that's one of the other great things about art, good art, is that it's good from real close and it's good from afar. Chuck Close, I actually, I do know Chuck Close. Has a special place in my heart. I've followed him. For those that don't know, yes, Chuck Close was, I believe he was in a wheelchair from illness rather than injury. And he, it was really cool to watch him paint because he didn't have fine dexterity and motor skills. But instead, he went like cell by cell and just, if you got really close, it just looked like little circles and everything. But you get back from afar, and it's a crazy amount of cool photorealism. And he did huge, like wall-sized paintings. Chuck Close is definitely a special place in my heart. Especially having the disability that he does. It resonates with me for very personal reasons. So anyway, yes, Chuck Close is amazing. But yes, anyway, my background, my educational background is in art, so I took a lot of art history and stuff like that. And he's one of the few contemporary artists that I really appreciate. So check it out, guys. But anyway, this is just a great all-around card. I feel if you have a leadership hero and you don't bring this, it's a mistake. That I'll go as far as saying that. It's just a great overall card. Moving on. Also, if you have leadership, I believe it was Widowmaker that at first introduced me to the term Uncle Urkel for this card. Erkenbrand, I do remember Widowmaker saying, like, when this card came out, it was like the clutch card. Everybody used it. Everybody had it. It was possibly even overpowered, quote unquote. And yes, Dan McGedden, right? This is why I'm doing this, because there's like, I think what tends to happen is you see a card and you can make a quick view of it, and you don't actually get up close and appreciate what's in it. Like, you sort of, is that the Mandela effect kind of? No, not really, because Mandela effect's a little slightly different, but you just sort of see shapes and color, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Erkenbrand, and you don't really look at it and pay attention. So I guess I am forcing you to. But yeah, he's on a horse, and not just on a horse, but like he's riding hard into battle. This horse has got all of the Steam. It's not Steam. It's not a dragon. What's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. But he's which is just, it's a very cool thing. And then he's got the foreshortening of the sword sort of coming at you, but also in the air. I feel like this card is exceptional, and kind of a bummer that you miss so much into it, because there's a lot you don't get to see. Condensation. Yeah. Like the breath in the words hard. Aside from so much going on in the art that's amazing, this card is just great. It always it has block, as aforementioned block. Apparently block's a theme with these cards as well. But also has guard, which so automatically he's gonna sink some of the damage for you. If you can get something like self-preservation on him, or if you're working with Arwen as well and you keep him alive, he's gonna protect your allies and heroes behind pretty significantly. So again, he's a unique ally, but this is the one exception where I was like, yes, 2 Erkenbrands are going in my deck, because he does take a lot of damage, and if you can't keep him alive, you got another one. So even has a blurry on the horse. Yeah. So the blur part, that's a really good observation, because a lot of things, if they're moving quickly, there's motion blur. That's actually a filter in Photoshop that, yeah, in the right hands, it works really well. Back in the day, the old Imladris minstrel with Erkenbrand was insane. If I do recall, the original minstrel didn't have the willpower restriction on it. If that's correct. So like she could heal all day, every day. And yeah, I mean, even now with the restriction, it's a really good combo. But anyway, I digress. Erkenbrand. There's just, again, this is another one I could stare at. There's so much going on, and it's such a shame that you miss so much of it, in the actual card art. But, okay, that is correct. The healing was insane. Yeah, even the detail on the horse's blanket, horse's cape. I don't know what one calls these. It's a wonderful card. All around, again, if I'm bringing leadership and I don't put Erkenbrand, I'm probably going crazy. I don't know. Coincidentally, okay, so there was the next one. So this is another card that I think it was you, Engage, that was like, you might want to get this card. And I believe it was, it is a quest reward, if I'm not mistaken. I forget which one. But this particular card goes in almost all of my decks, because it can, because it's a neutral sphere. It is 1 cost, and it grants protect to every character during the round. I don't think that any more explanation needs to be said. That is clutch in a lot of cases. So this card, both copies, go in almost every one of my decks. This is if I'm trying to quest and make it through and not trying to play on synergies or anything like that. Like, this goes in almost every single one. Campaign reward. Okay, yeah. I forget which campaign, but... Oh, no, it's finishing the campaign. I think it was a 2 or 3. 1, 2, 3. Whatever. It is a fantastic card to have in your deck. Additionally, let's talk about the art here. It's still gorgeous here. The red cape versus the green background, those are complementary colors, so which is why your eyes like, ooh, yummy. Which is interesting, because typically red and green are associated with Christmas, but in the right art context, you don't think Christmas. Like, I never saw Against the Shadow and thought, oh, well, that's a Christmas card. You just don't. So it's just an interesting psychological thing to it. But just, there's a crazy amount of cool detail in this cape. Like, this is what I'm talking about with the brush strokes and the dabs. Like, they're they make so much sense from afar and you don't think anything of it, and then you get close and you're like, holy cats, there's like really cool strokes and detail, and I just it's a great card. I think this one works really well in this. Excuse me, in the sphere. You do get to see a good bulk of it. I think the only thing that's lost is just mere size, so you don't get to see that detail. But this is almost all of my decks that I build. It just is. Okay, so next one, to no one's surprise, anytime I had a deck built and I had LotR, she was in it. And can we talk about how wonderful this art is? Okay, let's calm down on the art. First of all, Mladris Minstrel. If you have LotR, and even if you do have Arwen, like, if you can have Minstrel and Arwen up, like, nothing's dying. And as Dad McGinn was saying before, so now she's got the limit per willpower per round. So at this point, base, she can only heal somebody twice when you vanquish. That restriction used to not be there. So I think it's good that they put that restriction on it, because it was just a little, this and the Urk and Bran combo was definitely overpowered. But it's such a good card to have. If you can have even 2 copies out there, look out. And I say this, she does get attacked. I'm not saying Sauron ignores her, but she tends to not be a priority, which is crazy to me. And I don't know if it's the AI that looks at the attack and says, oh, she's 0 attack, whatever. I mean, she does die, don't get me wrong, because Sauron always goes in for the kill. I'm just saying it's not, in the world of attacking, it's not always the first thing Sauron looks at. So, so Aaron's asking, is it just me or the version of the art for Against the Shadows and Mladris Minstrel look different compared to the full art? I think it does, just because of the amount of detail you lose in the resizing of it. It might also be a case of sizing in the actual PowerPoint. Like, I feel like this might be a little vertically stretched a bit much. Possibly. But I think what's really great about this card is that in full res, like, you get to see, you know, this beautiful dress, this gown she's wearing. You get to see the whole chair that she's sitting in, which almost looks sort of Halo-like. So guardian angel kind of thing. So maybe it's just me, but it's a really cool, especially shows how much better it can be without filters and thick borders. It really is. I think this is the one where you're like, oh, there's a sort of like raiment, right? Like, there's a lot going on in this particular one. And when you see the full image, like, it's just, you know, everything's vertical with the way she's sitting in the chair and her drapery. And then you've got the guitar that crosses over, forcing you to sort of look, or I think that's a lyre. It's not a guitar. It's something else. Somebody more musically inclined, help me out. But, and yeah, you don't notice the chair in the card art at all, because the dark background, and she's so well lit that it just kind of fades and you don't pay attention. Loot. Thank you. Loot. That is exactly what it was. Hey, Jesse. And Twit. He's almost a Thalen with those eyebrows. I'm sorry, I missed your comment before. I don't get the reference. I don't get bonus points. I'm sorry. Yeah, Twit, we're just going over my favorite cards and talking art. That's what we're doing today, because I said. I also have the soundtrack on in the background, so there you go. I digress. I think this card is just, it's so beautiful and worth in all ways possible. An actual playing, the mechanics of the card are beautiful. The art is beautiful. I could stare at it all day. It's a very soothing, like, you know, part of the minstrels were for entertainment and promotion and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'd hire. Finally, anybody who has watched my streams, I talk about this card all the time, a lot. And yeah, the minstrel's eyes, very soothing. But Starbroach, even with the interview we did with Tim, one of the design consultants for the game, I was like, yeah, thanks for Starbroach. This card is so wonderful. It is yet again another attachment, which now in hindsight I'm probably thinking like Aaron's like, oh, all these attachments, because I know you're not a huge attachment fan. But seriously, if you're bringing Spirit and don't bring Starbroach, I ask what's wrong with you. Again, unless you're trying to focus on, you know, synergies and such. But this card is just stalwart. So as soon as you fight or use your willpower or anything, it readies again. You can use the card twice in a round, which is huge, especially if you're struggling to keep your allies alive, whatever the case is. I would say the biggest problem with this is once you put this on anything, it becomes Sauron's like main focus laser target. Like he is always going to go for the stalwarts, and I can't blame him because I do the same thing on him. So it makes everything a target, but it also makes your life just that much happier and better. So Starbroach, both copies, I always bring it if I have Spirit. That being said, moving over to the art, you don't realize like the sort of burlap texturing behind it in the card because you lose that detail, right? And yeah, the background just kind of looks like a wrinkle, and it's beautiful. But then you get up close and you're like, oh my gosh, look at that material. Look like all the stains on it, like blood stains. This is obviously blood stains on here, and dirt, and so the background in itself is just, it's yummy. But then you get up close and they've even detailed the facets. So this is like a jeweled Starbroach kind of look to it. And it's ridiculous. It is so pretty. So it's a beautiful card, much like Minstrel in all ways. Beautiful to have in your deck and beautiful to look at with the full res. Those were like my top cards that I almost always take regardless. That it wasn't an exhaustive list. I wanted to kind of keep trim because we're already at 44 minutes. But those are, in addition to art reasons, like in addition to what I always put in my decks, like these were my favorites, my favorites. And I don't think any of them would be surprising to most of you that have been here with me since August. So, well, yes, I would agree with you. We do need less blur. I don't think there is an intentional blur put on the cards. I don't know. I don't do the dev part, obviously. I just think it's what you lose when you shrink things down. Things just, you lose the detail, you lose the clarity, you lose the crispness because you're compressing all of the colors together, basically. I mean, you would essentially need to just make the card art bigger, and I don't know how possible that would necessarily be. I mean, there was the stuff on the previous roadmap that you can see what they were going to try to do is sort of a nod more to the living card game, but yeah, it's a shame, but it's the nature of things, right? Like as a 3D artist myself, you know, you can make a really cool looking character and he's got all the detail and the zippers and it's never going to make it in game because you don't see that detail. It's too expensive to render, all of that kind of stuff. So it's that push pull with game development. It's a bummer. Like I said, as sort of a lifelong artist, I would love to push all of that to the forefront, but apparently people like to actually have their games run properly, which is weird. I did include some Sauron cards. Now, it's not all of the ones that I think are gross. So it probably the top worst cards I included. Not all of them. Again, some of them I couldn't find the art for, so I didn't include. But Dark Sorcery. Now, I don't think this is necessarily the worst card Sauron can play. That was reserved for later. But this particular card has messed with my day more often than I care to admit. It's... So, like, there are times where I've had one canceled. Sometimes you can pull, you just assume the Dark Sorcery's played. So you can play some junk crap thing, careful planning, or whatever the case is that you want to play. But it's just... You had like this particular card has the best way to like completely divert everything that you were gonna do, or completely mess up your entire planned turn with just this. It's such a bummer card, which means it's a really great card, if that makes sense. So what's interesting with this card, yep, check out the VOD later, Twit. This is all about art, and it's all about you. Well, all about you guys seeing the big art, and I know that's always been a thing that you've talked about. Anyway, so this particular card, it's interesting because I think it's captured really well in the card frame. You miss out on some rocks up here, and you miss out on this weird board here. You get the really yummy bits in the actual card. I think the only thing, again, is you just don't necessarily get to see all of the really great texture. And this is one of the more painterly cards, but I still really appreciate it. Like, it's not... You know this is a skull. And why do you know this is a skull? Is because, you know, the infamous 3 recesses, right? The nose, the eyes. But... by all accounts, and like what's interesting is you can see sort of that bone ridge in the shading, and it is just one stroke, boop boop boop, like, but it makes sense and you get it, and then you get this little shadow here, which is there's a temporal indent in your head, so it's just another little quick boop. This kind of art really impresses me too. It's sort of the suggestion of forms rather than actually drawing out the forms, and I think it's a very difficult skill to master. The image doesn't match the effect to you, and I would agree. I think for how evil and annoying and this card can be, I could see it having more epic art to go along with it. But that's not to say I dislike this one. But I could see an argued case for something a little more like Dark Sorcery, right? Like sorcerer. Like I'm seeing more figurative, like a sorcerer, or, you know, sort of a shadowy figure or something like that. But here we are. What's interesting is this now looks to me like a tree. Like maybe it's a pile of rocks by a tree. So like a soldier leaned up against a tree and died. Or something. Soldiers, because here's another skull. An interesting art. Maybe not everybody's bread and butter, but like I said, the sort of suggestion of forms as opposed to actually detailing it is an interesting art style and not easy to master. So... it's an orc or a dwarf in really bad need of a dentist. Yeah, he's got some janky teeth, doesn't he? Well, and what's interesting too is that here, like I said, the suggestion of it, this is clearly the bottom part of the jaw, but it's disjointed and like broken off because, you know, nobody's jaw is like that unless there's a deformity. But it's a very clever use of color and shadow for suggestion of form. I appreciate it. Then we have this particular card. Now let me tell you, it is always played at the most opportune time for Sauron. Of course, why wouldn't he, right? He's probably like holding onto it in his hand, like gonna wait. But it's, never a first or second or even third round card. So anytime this card is played, if you have a board full, you're losing no less than like 5 of them just with one card. One card at one cost. I feel it should be more expensive than that. One resource to completely knock out my whole turn, almost. Come on now. So this card frustrates me super bad. Super bad. Like more so than Dark Sorcery. It's as soon as it comes out, you just like your excitement for your turn deflates faster than anything. It's just, that being said, I also think this is another card that the framing does well with it. It's an interesting choice in directionality of the card. Like, I think it's less pronounced in the card as it is in the full art, is that the fact that they're on a hill. As Engage says, you don't put stock in Sauron cheating aside from the stage setup advantages, but this card makes me doubt. Yes, this card and one next. I have a theory. We don't like to assume Sauron cheats, but actually Tim Cable did mention that there might be some shenanigans. I'm just saying. But anyway, this is an interesting perspective choice, right? Exhaustion. And it's not just the guy's exhausted, but his horse is obviously exhausted. And what's worse than trudging through plains is trudging through plains on a hill. So I think that just adds to you feel it a little more. You feel the actual exhaustion more. So I think this is a very appropriate art for this card. It's just a very cool directionality shift that kind of gives you more of a feeling of it. Additionally, things that are missed is the texturing. The colors are really, really rich in this grass. And I think that's something that people take for granted, is how much color variation and color choice makes a difference. Because you get real close and you're like, holy cats, there's this like tan color here, and then it comes up here and ooh, there's even blue in here. From afar you don't really see that, but it makes for a very sort of rich plane for them to be. Yeah, it's an icky card with beautiful art. That's it. This one, okay. It is 3 resources, and it should be. This one drives me insane. This one, almost as much, if not more than Exhaustion, I feel is a little too on the nose for Sauron, if you know what I'm saying. I'm not going to say he cheats, but come on with this card. Every time it's played, it's discard 1 random hero's attachment. So it's discard, right? Like there's another one, I forget what it's called. You guys will remember better than I will, but it returns an attachment to your deck, which isn't nearly as awful. This just completely gets rid of it. And it's never like your self-preservation or, it's never your round shield. It's always like your star brooch or a good point, or like it is always the clutch attachments that this card removes. I'm just saying. Sauron always likes to see the minstrel dead, he knows. So And yes, Octavian, you were saying the minstrel's dress looks soft and silky. It really does. Really does. But this card is just, this is another one that will completely ruin my day because, again, I think it's a bell curve. Number of times Greedy Fingers takes off my star brooch. It's up here, man. It's a lot. That being said, this art makes me so happy. It is absolutely gorgeous. The light highlights on all the hands, the light highlights on the hand, the sort of anguish in the face. And it's just the movement of it, like, just keeps your eye from, like, the hands are pointing you this direction and you keep going and all of a sudden you're like, oh, the hair is swirling you back. So you go this direction. Like, your eye just dances in this image and it's delightful. And you get a resting sort of break from the dancing if you focus on his face. It's such a well-designed card. In addition to, you see like the blurriness in the background to sort of push the image back a little more. So you, and that gets progressive, right? There's the detail in the hand that you can see, and then the rope, and then this is just kind of a blurry little line. So you've got really good depth, really good movement, and it's just, this image gets my brain as happy as like Raiment of War or The Minstrel did. Like, there's just a lot of really cool stuff going on in this. So enjoy this image because I think it's one of the better ones. As good of art as it is annoying of a card to have played. Just saying. And Aaron's probably all like, I don't care, I don't use attachments. Well, whatever. It's annoying. On Octavian, interesting you say Evil Storm, because I'm just saying, this card, I think it is probably like the top most hated of all cards in all of Sauron's arsenal. And being only 2 resources, I also think is ridiculous. It should at least be 3. At least be 3. Because it will ruin your day, especially for people like Octavian who like to monosphere the spirit with Elrond, which normally requires a lot of events. This one card will completely wipe you out. It's ridiculous. There's a lot of hero awards. I think there's a couple of my previous streams where I was trying to get a hero award, and I think even with Elrond, and this got played and I had to start over. Like, it completely messed with everything that I did. Hey moment, and don't worry, obviously there's the VOD you can go back and look at if you so care. Today is not gameplay, today is talking about my favorite and least favorite cards, and then going through the art, because like I said at the beginning of the stream, the art in this game is so excellent that, and we do get to appreciate it on the cards, which is wonderful, but I don't think we necessarily get to see all of the wonderfulness of it without getting these sort of high-res images. So I wanted to kind of show off and show you guys a lot of the brilliance that has gone into this game. Yeah, Engage agrees with me. Big undercost alert. Like, the fact that it's only 2, I mean, Greedy Fingers is annoying. It's a very annoying card. But less so than Evil Storm, and it costs more. So I feel this card needs to be upped in its resource cost. That is my opinion, and I'm sure 98% of you would agree with me. But and again, I think the art displayed within the card still does it pretty good justice, right? You're not missing a ton. You're missing some clouds up top and a little bit of the ground and mountains. But it's still, again, with that sort of painterly detail, you see more of the fact that it's actually storming. Like, you kind of get it, but if in the high res, this is actually a lightning bolt. I didn't know that. I just thought it was like a break in the clouds or something like that, but it's a lightning bolt. You don't see that in the small cards. So it's just awesome. It's good. It's good stuff. I don't really have a whole lot more to say to it than I already haven't, but again, with the highlights of the wetness down here with the lightning, it's like this is where your eye wants to sit and look at and play, and it's good. Anyway, it's the worst card in the game. The art's actually pretty great. Yeah, that's all I got for that. Kind of looks like a mean dwarf in Evil Storm. But regardless, like, yeah, there's just... My whole goal of this was to talk about, you know, some of the things that are awful, maybe to look out for, be aware, because they are this devastatingly awful. But also really give a boost and a shout out to the artists. Again, I'm sorry for not including the artist's name. I will never forgive myself for that. But just an opportunity for you guys to really see all of the love that has gone into the creation of the game. This one, and obviously the living card game. Lot of blood, sweat, and tears, I think, went into all of this, and we benefit from it, which is pretty fantastic. We benefit from other people's sorrow. It is the way. But that's all I had for today, and it did take me about an hour, so good on me. It's like almost as if I tried. So, I holidayed up a Lord of the Rings image. I don't know. The lights were my addition. The art itself was not. But anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to all of you folks. I have had an absolute blast playing this game. You guys have been wonderful. You guys have helped me through some very sticky situations, really good suggestions, kept it fun and amusing and good discussion, and I couldn't have asked for a better community. I mean, at risk of sounding mushy, bravo to you guys. I really, really, really appreciate it. So this being the last stream of 2020, I just want to say thank you all. We will be taking a break from streaming in the early stages of 2021, but be on the lookout for an official announcement from Antihero on 2021 roadmap. Just some information and details coming up after the first of the year. So, Dan Mageddon, thank you for the shout out. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have learned things, have laughed, have enjoyed. I know Aaron's laughed. I am going to be on Discord and the various doobly-doos, the Discord and Facebook and Reddit and Twitter. I am still going to be on that to the end of the year, answering questions as I can. So I'm still around, just not in stream. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your holiday. Keep playing the game. Keep rocking out. And again, thank you all so much for being so awesome. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks, everybody.